have your kids, and you can listen this to when somebody that they admire talks about how they got from point A to point B. Because one of the things we do a lot in this country, is we love the overnight success, right? We love oh, she just appeared out of nowhere and she really has made it big time. And I think it's really helpful for kids to listen to how those people that they admire, be it an athlete or a musical talent or a writer, have them begin to listen to how that person talks about the steps that they took to get there, and how they talk about their successes and how they built on their successes.
Welcome to Flusterclux with Lynn Lyons, where we talk about how to manage those tricky emotions that show up in all families. Serious stuff without being too serious. I'm your co-host, Robin, and I'm Lynn's sister-in-law, and I'm here to ask your questions.
And I'm Lynn Lyons. I'm an anxiety expert, speaker, mom, and author, and I've been a therapist for over 30 years. Parenting can be a flusterclux, and I'm here to help you find your way. And I'll even tell you what to do and what to say.
So, Lynn, we're still very much in the middle of summer, but our listeners in other parts of the country are very much deep in back to school season. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to give all our listeners a little bit of a calendar in that we're going to finish off season 4 until we go back to school in New England after Labor Day. Mm-hmm. And we're going to start season 5, which is kind of crazy.
Season 5. And we've got some fun things planned for season 5.
We do. We've been making a list. Oh, I can't wait to do an episode on that and that and that.
Yeah. All summer I've been writing down, oh, I got to do an episode on this. I've got to do an episode on this. Oh, this is I can't wait to tell Robin about this. So we're excited about it.
Just a reminder also, we do have a link in our Facebook group where you can submit listener questions, because we will definitely do some listener question episodes in the fall as well. Mm-hmm. But today we're getting almost to the end. This is number 6 of 7 of your anxiety disruptors. You call them the puzzle pieces. Mm-hmm. So tell us what number 6 is.
So number 6 is we're going to build back to your successes. And another way I talk about it is building reminder bridges. Because one of the things that anxiety is really good at doing is making you amnesiac to your successes. And so how it comes up with parenting is that you've got a child who's worried about doing something. Maybe they were afraid to go somewhere or do something. You finally get them to do it. Maybe you listened to our previous puzzle piece and you created some fun little motivational rewards. You finally got them to do it. And you're like, yay, we're over that hump. And then the next time that they're met with a challenging situation, you see the same resistance or the same worry show back up again. What we want to make sure we're doing is we're helping kids stay connected, not only to the content of their successes, which, as you know, is not the important part for me, but how did they do it? How did you get yourself to do something that you didn't feel like doing, and what was the result of it? This is one of the puzzle pieces that I like because it's really applicable to parenting in general. It's just applicable to being supportive of your kids and to amplifying their strengths. Sometimes we can get so caught up in pointing out what they're doing wrong, or we can get so caught up in our worry about what they're not doing. Are they meeting that developmental stage? Or they're supposed to be reading at this level? Or they're supposed to be able to do this? This is a time for you to really revel with your child in the successes that they've had. I talk about this a lot in terms of the school year. So say it were the end of the school year, I might say to teachers that I'm presenting to, I want everybody to do an exercise with their students where they say, what was something that you didn't know how to do at the beginning of the school year that now you've got it down, right? Easy peasy. What was something you were worried about in September, and now that it's April or May, whoop, easy peasy. We can do that at the end of summer as well. Now's an opportunity to say to your kids, what was something that you learned this summer? What was something you did this summer that maybe you were a little nervous about? What was something new that you figured out how to do? Did you jump off the high dive? Did you go away to camp for the first time? Did you learn how to change your guinea pig's cage by yourself? Maybe you got your babysitting certification and you started babysitting. Take a little time, have a little review with your kids now that we're getting toward the end of the summer, and talk to them about the things that they did and the successes that they had. And then, in addition to that, I want you to ask them this question. How did you go from not knowing how to do something to knowing how to do it?
Ooh, boom. That's brilliant.
Oh, well, thank you. What were the steps that you took? You can have this conversation, and if they say, I don't know, you use yourself as an example. So you say, well, at the beginning of the summer, I didn't know how to do this and this and this. And now look, I figured it out. I perfected my backstroke, or I learned how to, what do you learn how to do in the summer? I learned how to play pickleball or whatever.
Kayak,
right. I learned how to put the tent up when we went camping. And then you say, so this is how it started. So at first, remember when I first tried to put the tent up, oh my gosh, it was such a disaster. And I even had the cry feeling. I felt like I was going to cry. I felt so frustrated, but I stuck with it. And the last time we went camping, I put that tent up, not completely without frustration, but I know how to do it now. You talk to them about how they went from not knowing to knowing. And then you also can say at this point, we're starting a new school year pretty soon. You're going to be starting third grade, or you're going to be starting middle school, or you're going to be starting your junior year. And I want you to think right now about what you learned about yourself this summer that's going to help you when you come up against something. And I want you to write it down, and we're going to put it somewhere so that when you're taking that geometry class, when you've got to write this personal narrative, when you've got to get on the school bus, we're going to have this little letter that you wrote to yourself that encourages you and reminds you of how you were successful. Because when kids are worrying, they absolutely disconnect from this part of themselves. Absolutely. Like it's a little love letter that you write to yourself, a little encouraging letter that you write to yourself.
Think I'm on to something, but let's take a break and we'll come right back and talk about it.
Robin, we have heard over and over and over again how important it is that we take care of our mental health, but also how it can be tricky to find help when you need it. Our sponsor, Talkspace, is filling that need. It's really making it possible for busy parents, for busy people to get the help that they need when they need it.
I mean, being able to reach out to a therapist or psychiatrist anytime from anywhere makes taking care of mental health so easy for busy parents. So wherever you are, knowing if you need to talk with your therapist, you can just send a message.
I wholeheartedly recommend Talkspace for therapy. You can sign up online and start therapy the same day as you sign up, which is so important that people have access when they most need it. You can text, video, or send voice messages to your licensed therapist. So it's incredibly convenient to have virtual sessions from the comfort of your home.
Talkspace is a fraction of the cost of in-person therapy. And instead of waiting for an appointment, you can send unlimited messages to your therapist 24/7. Talkspace has thousands of licensed therapists with years of experience in over 40 specialties, including depression, anxiety, substance abuse, trauma, anger management, relationship issues, food and eating, and so much more.
I think one of the things that keeps people from reaching out and getting therapy is that they think about all the things that they have to make happen in order to fit in a therapy session.
As a listener of Flusterclux, you'll get $100 off your first month with Talkspace. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com and make sure to use the code FLUSTER to get $100 off your first month. That's Fluster at Talkspace.com.
I've had meal kits and they've been pretty expensive and the food hasn't been so great, but I will tell you, every plate is actually 25% cheaper than grocery shopping. And the meals that we made as a family, not only did they come together really quickly, not only were they simple and stress-free, but they were really delicious. They're ready in about 30 minutes or less. With food prices at the grocery store going up, I know that every plate is going to be a great value week after week.
I love that we as a family sort of take turns who makes them because they're really that easy to follow. And you get to choose between 18 recipes that change each week.
And what was great is that they didn't taste like my cooking. They tasted, right?
They tasted like something different.
Yeah, they tasted like something different. We had an incredible pork with mashed potatoes and carrots. There was this ginger chicken that I had. They have caramelized onion burgers.
Get your first box for just $1.49 per meal by going to everyplate.com and entering the code Fluster149.
Just get started with EveryPlate. Enter the code Fluster149.
That's up to $110 in value.
And it's delicious.
Okay, let's get back to this conversation.
I love what you're saying about it's forcing them to understand that there was a beginning and an end with a new outcome that they learned. It's encouraging skill building and how to do something. Because it's making me think about something that we talked about in the anxiety audit and a few other episodes. It's creating a habit that is going to prevent global thinking.
That's right. Global thinking, just as a reminder, is when you paint the world with a broad brush. When you're being global, you say things like, oh, I'll never figure this out, or I always screw this up, or nobody understands me, all those big words. And parts and sequencing are the opposite of global thinking. You're exactly right, because what you're saying is, say your child has a great success, right? Because we can be globally successful. Oh my gosh, you did so great on the swim team this year. And then having them break it down. How did you do that? What went into that? That skill of sequencing, that skill of breaking things down into parts, that skill of recognizing how you went from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, all of that is incredibly affirming. It allows kids to really recognize the skill of building on something one step at a time. That's a fabulous point.
I love this because you highlight these emotional skills. They're not readily obvious with how important and beneficial they are. But if you have a pattern where you are always understanding your successes by breaking them up into parts, it gives every child that opportunity to just go habitually to that process to help them through every challenge that they face.
And it's an interesting thing, too, that it reminds me of is that helping your kids see the steps that you take to build towards success. It's not about perfection. It's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about handling the stops and the starts and the missteps and the mistakes. Have your kids, and you can listen this too, when somebody that they admire talks about how they got from point A to point B. Because one of the things we do a lot in this country, is we love the overnight success, right? We love the, oh, she just appeared out of nowhere and she really has made it big time. And I think it's really helpful for kids to listen to how those people that they admire, be it an athlete or a musical talent or a writer, have them begin to listen to how that person talks about the steps that they took to get there and how they talk about their successes and how they built on their successes. A lot of podcasts that I listen to where they're interviewing celebrities and things like that, particularly the more long form podcasts, get into this. And I love hearing people who are really good at what they do talk about how they got good at what they do, because it didn't just happen. Sometimes young people will ask me, they'll say, well, I really want to be like you. And I say, well, what do you mean like by that? Because there's a lot of things about me that you really don't want to be like, but what are you talking about? And they say, well, I want to be a speaker. How did you learn to be a speaker? Or I want to write a book. How do you write a book? And I say to them, before I wrote my first book, I was in practice for 20 years. Before I gave my first talk, I had worked really hard on figuring out what I was going to say. It's a process of building and paying attention to those successes. And I think that's a really important thing for kids to hear too. We have to keep them connected to their successes. Now, this doesn't mean, by the way, this doesn't mean that you consistently tell your child that every single thing they do is wonderful and they're amazing and they never do anything wrong, because that creates a sense of entitlement that's not helpful. But you want them to think about how they made those steps. What were the struggles along the way? What do they feel most proud of? That was a question I was having kids answer a lot during the pandemic, actually, and I probably talked about it in previous episodes. You probably remember, Robin, where I would say, what are you most proud of? What do you feel like you handled well? Because during the pandemic, a lot of things were going kind of crappy, as you recall. Connecting kids to their successes, reminding, having them build those reminder bridges back, an enormously helpful skill for kids because worry doesn't like that at all. Worry wants you to worry. It wants you to focus on the negative. It wants you to pay attention to the failure. And as Robin, you so brilliantly pointed out, it wants you to go global with the negativity. We want to break it down, connect, connect, connect. It's building over time the development of skills to step in, to take further risks, to push yourself a little bit farther. That's the opposite of what worry wants, for sure.
Since modeling is such a big part of this approach, and really anything, because they copy what we do, even if we don't want them to, how do you model this skill for your kids?
Yeah, such a good question because kids are listening and watching all the time. Let me start by saying this is how you don't model this for your kids. Think about your self-critical dialogue that you engage in. So think about the way you talk to yourself and think about how you even talk to yourself out loud. Oh, God, I am so awful at this. Oh, I suck. Oh, my God, I can't believe I did that again. Oh, my gosh, right? The more that you criticize yourself when you're making mistakes, the more that you're showing kids how to do that. You're giving them the language to do that. So you want to pay attention to your own self-criticism. And the way you model it for your kids is you can just say offhandedly. It's not like you have to have a parade every time you do something great. Say you're getting ready to go do something. You're like, oh gosh, I've got this really important meeting today at work. I'm so nervous about it. Okay, all right. I just got to talk myself through. So here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm saying to myself. All right, you know you're going to feel a little nervous before. I'm going to make sure that I don't have too much coffee because that really jacks up my energy in a not so great way. I'm going to blast some music in the car on the way to work this morning. I'm going to sing my favorite songs. And then I'm going to go into that meeting. I know I'm going to feel anxious, but I also know because I remember this about myself. Once I get started, I feel fine. So that's my process. That's what I'm going to do. You can talk about it in that way, but throw things out there for your kids that you are doing in your life. Oh my gosh, I remember when I was first starting to get my driver's license, I was really nervous about driving. Or I remember when I first was going off to camp, or I remember when I first started high school. I remember when I first started third grade. And then you say, and then I learned this, and then I figured this out. And gosh, it took a while. So you start talking to them about that sequencing, both in your own life and then in your, making connections back to things that you did in the past so you can show them that process. And as I say this, I also want you to still abide by the rule of talk 85% less. So just throw it in there, but don't give them like an hour lecture about how you were able to get through your geometry class. Yeah.
I think highlighting our mistakes is also really important.
Mm-hmm.
I made this mistake, but it was good because I then learned this and did this instead. I mean, just verbalizing that must be very important too, right?
Yeah, you just want to let your kids know that life is full of making mistakes, learning things, figuring out things as you go. And the whole point of this, the key part of this, is that worry and anxiety disconnect you from your successes. And they will cancel them out. They say things like, well, that doesn't count. Or I did it that one time, but I won't be able to do it again. When people are consistently anxious, when they don't have a lot of confidence, when they don't step into things, they see their successes as flukes. They see their successes as good luck, that they were just lucky that they did it that way, or that everything had to come together perfectly for them to have the success. And that's why talking through it in that way is really helpful, because they can see the action that they took and the steps that they took that allowed them to get where they were. It wasn't a fluke. It wasn't just luck. It wasn't a single episode or a particular circumstance. So the more that we help kids connect to the process of developing and building success, the more we're doing the opposite of what anxiety demands. That's prevention, people. And remember, when we're preventing anxiety, we're also preventing depression. How do you recognize what you did that got you to that place?
Let's take a break and talk more about that.
Robin, I don't love going to the grocery store.
Yeah, you really don't go to the grocery store very often.
But this is why something like Thrive Market is a dream come true, because I can shop for everything that I need from my house, have it delivered right to my door. And if I find a price that's lower somewhere else, Thrive Market will match it.
I love that Thrive Market carefully vets every item they sell, so you can trust that if they sell it, it's probably the highest quality available of that particular item. And I love that you can filter out 90 plus values and lifestyles to find what works for you, especially if you have any food allergies in your household like we do.
When you first go on the website, you answer all these questions about what you like and what you're looking for, and then you can shop by what you eat and what matters to you. So they've got over 5,000 food, home, and beauty products.
They have plant-based, keto, gluten-free, zero waste, BIPOC-owned brands. They have it all. One of the things that I recently purchased was a whole new line of natural cleaning supplies for our bathrooms.
I love the natural cleaning supplies because I don't want to bring toxic chemicals into my house. And it's so great. The variety they have is so much better than what's available at my grocery store.
When you join Thrive Market, you're joining a community of over 1 million members and sponsoring a family in need. And with their fast and free carbon neutral shipping, you're also bettering our planet.
Join Thrive Market today and get $80 in free groceries. That's THRIVE market.com/Flusterclux to get $80 in free groceries.
That's thrivemarket.com/Flusterclux. Lynn, every summer I say this, I think that summer's going to be this relaxing experience. And I don't know why, but summer is actually just as stressful as the rest of the year with all these things happening.
Well, you know what? I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to make summer great. So we're still managing anxiety. This is why we need healthy outlets and support for our stress as well.
That's why any stressed out mama should check out Metabolic Reds by Pure Health Research.
Metabolic Reds is a delicious superfood blend that contains wonderful adaptogens like ashwagandha.
Adaptogens are known as nature's stress busters, known for a remarkably calming effect. Plus, the many other organic red fruits, probiotics, and digestive enzymes help boost your energy levels all day long while igniting your metabolism.
And let us mention, too, that Metabolic Reds taste like a delicious berry smoothie. It does. I tried it. It's really delicious.
As a listener of our show, you can try Metabolic Reds risk-free today and get a free bottle of Metabolic Greens with your first order.
So go to getreds.com/Fluster to learn more. That's getreds.com/Fluster to purchase Metabolic Reds and claim your free gift. Go to getreds.com/Fluster now and get started.
We need all the energetic help we can just to keep up with our summer schedules.
Okay, we're back.
I love this puzzle piece. I think it's so profound because I would like to point out you and I are kind of boss women types. We acknowledge we have successes. It's not hard for us to acknowledge like, yay, this happened, or I did this. You know, you've been a competitive athlete since you were a little kid. There are listeners, I have a feeling though, where the mom hears this and she is that mom who says, my success was a fluke. What do you say to that mom or dad?
So one of the most wonderful things that you can do for yourself is to think about the person in your life that loves to hear about your successes. And some people are raised that that's bragging, that you're not supposed to toot your own horn. Particularly women, there are a lot of messages that we get as women that we're supposed to be demure and right? You have to find the person in your life. I've got a few of them in my life. You're one of them, by the way. And then I've got some wonderful friends. And my parents also, where they want to hear you brag. And that's one of the things I actually do in sessions with families is I say, everybody right now, there's nobody else here. It's just us. And I want you to brag to me about what you did that you are so proud of. I want you to tell me what made you grin from ear to ear that you were so, so proud of. Everybody needs a person in their life that they can unabashedly brag to about something that they did that they feel so proud of. So find that person, cultivate that connection, because you are offering your successes. And I want everybody to have somebody who just says, oh my gosh, I am so happy for you. That allows us to not only keep those wonderful connections, but to be able to show your kids that you can fill yourself up with the joy that you create and the successes that you have. That's an amazing thing to show your kids. It's not really about bragging in a way that is negative. It's really just taking an opportunity every once in a while to say to somebody who loves you so much, look what I did. And for you as a parent to model that for your kids. People talk to me all the time. They go, how do I increase my kids' self-esteem? Let them feel good about the successes they have. Yeah, that's what I'd want for all of you listening, is that you have that person. Because I have people in my life that I just treasure because of that.
It's interesting you say that, because obviously we in fact are one of those people for each other. But here's kind of an interesting question. That's the Z. There was an A. It's not like when I met you when I was dating your brother. It was like, let me tell you about myself. Mm-hmm. Right? So there is even a process of that trust and vulnerability that enables you to share success with someone. That has to be a process. If I were to think, well, how did we get there? Right? Because it's like if it's a parent or a sibling, right? But it's like it's someone who you haven't known your whole life. How do you get there?
Right.
And I think that that's an interesting point. We had a conversation in our family recently about this, about talents. And like, say you have some people in the family with like really like big talent that not everyone else has. One of the things that I've always talked about, and this is, sorry for the nerd alert.
Okay, I'm ready.
If you've got old enough kids, you think about the Lord of the Rings, and you think about this posse of the swordsman and the archer and, wizard. You think of like a really powerful group of people, but they all had a special talent. And so I've always talked to my kids about their friends, like friendship. There's no contest in friendship. Like, embrace your friends' talents, because then you become a really powerful group, right? That can defeat the Eye of Sauron, or whatever his name was. I'm not that nerdy. I don't remember his name. But you know what I mean? It's like, learn to embrace the skills of other people.
Yeah. Well, and I think as you're thinking about how do you develop that connection that you can talk about your achievements, talk about, what you're proud of. I think one of the things when I think about the people who allow me to do that and the people that I feel comfortable doing that with, they made it very clear that they were happy to hear that from me without even me telling them. They might say, hey, I saw that you're doing this thing, or I heard about this thing, and I am so proud of you. I am so happy for you, without me even saying it. And that just sort of opened the door to me being able to share my successes. So we can model that for our kids. We can model that in friendships. You can be that person to somebody else and show them that they can be that person for you.
It's a great point, because if you're someone listening and you say, I don't really know that I have that person, well, go be that person for somebody else. That's your starting point. That's point A.
There's a friend that I have that I don't see very often, but I've known her for years. And she lives in my town. And when she sees something, like she sees something in the newspaper about, maybe your child hit a triple in a Little League game, or when my son was writing for the paper and his stories were getting the byline, he was doing his internship, she would text me and she would say, I saw this and this in the paper. That's such wonderful news. I'm so happy for you. It is one of the kindest things that somebody can do. she just says, like, I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you. And she is that person. It's just one of the kindest things that this person sees something out in the world and she acknowledges it and she expresses her delight in my success, or she expresses her delight in seeing my children in the newspaper or something. It's just a wonderful quality to have.
It reminds me of, it's the polar opposite of, very often the office colleagues bond only through the filter of complaining.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or students, right? Classmates, like, let's talk because we're going to complain.
Yeah.
Let's talk because I see you and I see what you did and I think it's amazing. That's a much better introduction to real connection.
It is. Yeah, we really can find a way to celebrate the successes of other people and celebrate the successes of our children. We don't have to worry if we do it in a way that's genuine, if we do it in a way that is kind, if we do it in a way that allows them to feel good about it. It's not teaching them, like I said, to be entitled. It's not giving them the message that everything they do is wonderful, that they're special in a way that they're better than somebody else. But it's those little acknowledgments. To get a text from a friend that says, hey, I saw your son's article in the newspaper and that's really great that he's writing for them. It was fun to read. It's just kindness. It's just sharing in somebody's successes. Yeah. I have colleagues that are really, really great at doing that. And I try and do it with other people as well.
It's a worldview that you can create if you don't currently have it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right. And if you come from a family that was really critical of each other or critical of other people, if you came from a place of lack.
Who do you think you are?
Right.
Who do you think you are energy, which is very, very common.
Yep.
All right. So next we have one more anxiety puzzle piece that is one of the big disruptors left. So tease us. Yeah. What is number 7, Lynn?
Mm-hmm. To tie it all up, take action on your plan. That should surprise none of you. Talk, talk, talk. Now we're going to do. We're going to put it together. Take action on your plan. I'm going to talk about how you create a plan. And all of this, I've been talking about how to create a plan step by step by step. This is just a little bow to tie it all together. Yeah. And let me just tell you that one of the talents I have that my nephew, when he's now in his 30s, is he 30? But when he was very little, my sister was talking to him about all the different talents that people had. And he said, yeah, and like Aunt Linny, she's got her whistling.
That's right. Your talent is whistling.
Yeah. So he was really impressed by my whistling. So see, everybody, we all have something.
He's got some impressive whistling talents himself now.
Yeah, he does. He's got a lot of talents. He's a pretty amazing person. Yeah. All right, everybody. We'll see ya for the 7th puzzle piece. Enjoy your time with your family. Enjoy the sunshine. Get outside and play. Play, play, play.
So join our Facebook community so you can ask Lynn a question and connect with our listeners.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Flusterclux. Bye, Robin.
Bye, Lynn.